Charlton Heston, the WW2 warrior Hollywood turned into a myth and symbol of courage. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the bustling streets of Hollywood in the early 1940s. As the world plunged deeper into the chaos of World War II, the vibrant film industry continued to thrive, creating a stark contrast between the glamour of the silver screen and the grim realities of war. The air was thick with anticipation, excitement, and an undercurrent of anxiety. In this town of dreams, where every face was a potential star, one question loomed larger than the others: what does it mean to be a hero in a time of crisis? Charlton Heston stood on the set of his latest film, surrounded by the bright lights and clattering camera equipment that defined his life. His heart raced as he performed, embodying characters who fought valiantly in fictional battles. Yet, the weight of his conscience tugged at him, pulling him away from the glitz and glamour he had always desired. He was a man caught between two worlds, the stage of Hollywood and the call of duty beckoning him to the front lines. With tousled hair and piercing blue eyes, Charlton radiated a magnetic presence. He was passionate and ambitious, a man determined to carve his name into the annals of film history. Yet, as he rehearsed his lines, his thoughts drifted to the far-off echoes of gunfire and the sacrifices being made by countless soldiers. They were heroes, real and raw, facing an enemy in a battle unlike any seen before. In the depths of his soul, he questioned whether he could be counted among them. Margaret Maggie Heston, his loving wife, stood off to the side, watching Charlton with a mixture of pride and concern. With her sun-kissed hair pinned back and her warm brown eyes filled with worry, she represented the steadfast support that every hero needed. Yet, as the war raged on, her heart felt heavy with the burden of uncertainty. Would her husband, the man she adored, choose to turn his back on the bright lights of Hollywood to serve a cause that could lead him into unimaginable peril? Each day, as she watched him step further into the world of make-believe, her fears grew louder, echoing in the chambers of her mind. "Charlton," she called, her voice breaking the spell of the moment. "Can we talk for a second?" He turned, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension in his expression. "Of course, Maggie. What's on your mind?" The bustling film set faded into the background as they stepped into a quieter corner, where the noise of Hollywood seemed to whirl away. Maggie's eyes darted, searching for the right words. "It's the war, Charlie," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Every day, I see the news. I hear the stories. I can't help but worry." Charlton caught her gaze, his brow furrowing. "I know, Maggie. But what can I do? I'm an actor. My place is here, in Hollywood. I can help boost morale, raise awareness through my work. But what if you want to do more?" she pressed, her voice trembling. "What if you want to serve? What if you want to be out there?" Charlton sighed, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He wanted to comfort her, to ease her fears, but the truth was, he felt that call too. "I don't know, Maggie. I just don't know. The world is changing, and so am I." The tension crackled in the air between them, the very essence of their love strained by the conflict of duty versus ambition. As they stood on the precipice of uncertainty, the world around them seemed to blur, the dazzling lights of Hollywood juxtaposed with the sobering shadows of war. Each heartbeat echoed with unspoken fears and aspirations, leaving them both standing at a crossroads. Just then, a commanding voice broke through the silence. "Heston. We need you back on set." It was Captain Jack Thompson, a charismatic war hero turned consultant for the film. He exuded the kind of confidence that made people instinctively trust him. His presence drew attention, and even in that moment of tension, Charlton felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Captain Thompson could help him navigate this tumultuous path. "Charlton," Thompson said, his tone shifting to one of sincerity. "You've got a gift. Use it. You can inspire people in ways that bullets and bombs can't. But you have to find your own truth in all of this." Charlton nodded, uncertainty swirling in his gut. As Thompson walked away, he felt a deep yearning to understand what that truth truly meant. Was it on the silver screen, or was it in the trenches of war? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow over the city, Charlton stood at the edge of Hollywood, staring into the unknown. The conflict within him was palpable. He wanted to be a hero, not just on screen but in life. Yet, the very essence of that heroism now felt like a double-edged sword. Maggie reached for his hand, grounding him. "Whatever you decide, know that I'll support you," she said softly, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. "Just promise me you'll think about what it means to be a hero." As they stood together, hands intertwined, the bright lights of Hollywood flickered in the distance, a reminder of the dreams that could either soar or shatter. The world outside was calling, and within that call lay the potential for courage, sacrifice, and a journey that would forever alter the course of their lives. The stars began to twinkle in the night sky, and in that moment, Charlton Heston knew he was standing on the brink of something monumental. The question was no longer whether he would answer the call, but rather how that decision would shape not only his destiny but the lives of those he loved. The sun set over Hollywood, casting a golden hue that softened the edges of reality, yet the shadows of war loomed ever larger. Charlton Heston stood on the bustling set of his latest film, The Last Stand, engulfed in the familiar hum of production. The air was filled with the chatter of crew members, the clinking of equipment, and the distant sound of a camera rolling. But today, the excitement felt different. It felt heavy, as if the weight of the world had settled on his shoulders. Charlton watched as the director shouted orders, orchestrating the chaos around him. He had always loved the thrill of acting, the way he could transform into different characters, the applause that followed a powerful performance, but today, his heart was elsewhere. Every time he glanced toward the exit, he felt a pull, an undeniable urge to step outside the confines of Hollywood and into the fray of the world. "Hey, Heston," a voice called, breaking his reverie. It was Jack Thompson, the charismatic war hero who had recently returned to Hollywood after serving overseas. Jack's uniform fit him like a glove, perfectly tailored and a testament to both his physical prowess and his experiences. "What's got you daydreaming over there?" Charlton forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just thinking about the war, I guess. Feels like it's all anyone talks about these days." Jack nodded, his expression turning serious. "It's not just talk, man. It's real. Every day, brave men are putting their lives on the line. It's an honor to serve, and it's something we shouldn't take lightly." Charlton felt a pang of guilt at Jack's words. He admired the man's valor, his dedication, and the way he carried the weight of his experiences with quiet dignity. But the thought of enlisting filled him with a mix of dread and longing. "I know, but I'm just starting to make a name for myself. Is it worth risking everything?" Jack's gaze sharpened. "You think your career matters more than your country? Believe me, the experiences you gain will make you a better actor. You'll have stories to tell, real stories." Charlton's thoughts drifted to Maggie, his wife. He could picture her face, the worry etched in her brow every time they spoke about the war. She had been supportive since the beginning of his acting career, but now, with the war escalating, her concern was palpable. "Let's grab a drink after this," Jack suggested, sensing the turmoil within Charlton. "I can share some stories from my time in the field. It might help you decide." "Yeah, maybe," Charlton replied, but his heart wasn't in it. He knew he needed to talk to Maggie before making any decisions. The last thing he wanted was to add to her worries. Later that evening, Charlton arrived home to an atmosphere thick with unspoken words. Maggie was in the kitchen, her hands busy preparing dinner, but her mind seemed elsewhere. The faint sound of a radio broadcast filled the room, the news reporting on the latest developments from the front lines. "Hey, love," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "Guess what? I met a war hero today." She turned to him, her expression softening but still touched by concern. "Oh? Jack Thompson, right? He's become quite the celebrity since returning. How was it?" "It was interesting," he admitted, taking a seat at the small kitchen table. "He's passionate about serving. He thinks I should enlist." Maggie paused, her hands faltering. "Charlton, please think this through. I don't want to lose you to the war. You're just starting to make your mark in Hollywood. This is your dream." "This is my dream, but it feels trivial compared to what's going on out there," he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. How can I act like everything is fine while men are fighting for their lives? By ensuring you're safe, she countered gently. You can support the war effort in other ways. You could do benefit shows, or even enlist in a way that doesn't put you on the front lines. There are safer options. Charlton sighed, running a hand through his hair. But I want to be a part of something bigger. I want to experience it, to understand what they're going through. How can I portray these characters authentically if I don't know what they've faced? Maggie's eyes filled with worry. And what if you don't come back? What if this dream takes you away from us forever? You have a life here, a family. I need you here. The tension crackled in the air between them, a storm brewing on the horizon. Charlton could see the fear in her eyes, and it mirrored his own fears about the war. But he could also feel the call of duty tugging at him, urging him to take action. I need to do this, Maggie, he said softly, regret lacing his voice. I need to serve. I want to be able to tell their stories, but I can't do that from behind a desk. Maggie turned away from him, tears brimming in her eyes as she resumed her cooking, the clattering of pots and pans filling the silence. The palpable distance between them felt insurmountable, and Charlton's heart sank. As the days passed, Charlton found himself caught in a whirlwind of doubt and determination. He began attending recruitment events and training sessions, immersing himself in the military culture, yet each step felt like he was tearing himself further away from Maggie. On one particularly grueling day, he stood in line at a military recruitment office, surrounded by young men eager to serve. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of excitement and fear. As he filled out the forms, he overheard snippets of conversations around him, stories of brothers enlisting, fathers serving, and the shared hope of returning home. Hey, Heston, a voice called from behind him. It was Jack, who had followed him to the office. I'm glad to see you here, man. It takes guts to step up like this. Charlton turned, feeling a swell of mixed emotions. Yeah, well, I'm still thinking it over. Jack clapped a hand on his shoulder. You're doing the right thing. You'll be glad you did this. Hollywood will still be here when you come back. But as he looked around the office, something shifted within Charlton. The reality of enlisting weighed heavily on him. He thought of Maggie, of the life they had built together, and how fragile it felt in the face of war. The decision loomed large. Would he sacrifice his career for the sake of duty? Or would he choose to prioritize his family? Later that evening, the couple sat in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. Charlton stared out the window, the night sky dotted with stars that seemed to shine with an indifferent brightness. He felt an overwhelming desire to reach out to Maggie, to bridge the gap that had formed between them. Maggie, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. I know this isn't easy for you. It's not easy for me either. She turned to him, her expression softening slightly. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to be left wondering if you'll come back. I know, he said, his heart aching for her. But I feel like I have to do this. It's not just about me. It's about all those men out there fighting for our freedoms. I want to honor their sacrifices. Maggie's eyes glistened with unshed tears. And what about us? What about our life together? Charlton felt the weight of her words settle on his shoulders, a reminder of what he stood to lose. I promise I'll find a way to balance it all. I don't want to give up on us. But as he spoke, he knew that the path he was choosing would change everything. The conflict within him was a storm, and the winds of war were beginning to howl, threatening to sweep away everything he held dear. The next day, Charlton went back to the recruitment office, determination coursing through him. He was ready to sign up, ready to step into the unknown. Yet, as he stood before the officer, his heart raced. The weight of the decision felt unbearable, and he hesitated, his pen hovering over the paper. Are you sure about this? The officer asked, observing the turmoil on Charlton's face. I think so, he stammered, uncertainty flooding him. Think about your family. Think about what this decision means. Charlton looked down at the paper, his heart pounding. He thought of Maggie, of their dreams, and of the life they had built together. The enormity of what he was about to do pressed down on him, and for a fleeting moment, he felt the urge to turn back, to walk away from the path he had chosen. But the call of duty echoed in his mind, and he felt Jack's words resonate within him. This was his chance to make a difference, to be a part of something greater than himself. Yet, the thought of leaving Maggie, of the uncertainty that lay ahead, kept him rooted to the spot. "Sir, I need some time," Charlton finally said, stepping back from the desk, his resolve wavering. The officer nodded, understanding the weight of the decision. "Take all the time you need. It's a big step." As he walked out of the office, the world around him felt different, as if he were seeing it through a new lens. The glitzy lights of Hollywood seemed dimmer, the laughter of the crowd hollow. He needed to talk to Maggie, needed to share his struggle, to find a way to navigate this conflict together. Back at home, Charlton found Maggie sitting on the porch, the setting sun casting a warm glow around her. She looked up as he approached, her expression unreadable. "I went to the recruitment office," he said, taking a seat beside her. "But I didn't sign up." She turned to him, a mixture of relief and concern washing over her face. "You didn't?" "I couldn't bring myself to do it." "Not yet. I need to figure this out. This is about us, Maggie, and I don't want to make a decision that puts our lives in jeopardy." Maggie reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. "I'm proud of you for recognizing that. It's a difficult choice, and I want you to choose what's right for you." Charlton felt a weight lift, a sense of understanding settling between them, yet the uncertainty of the future still loomed large. "What if I decide to go?" "Then we'll face it together," she replied softly. "We'll find a way to make it work." As they sat together, the sun dipped below the horizon, and for the first time in days, Charlton felt a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. But deep down, he knew that the decision he faced was far from over. The war was calling, and its echoes would continue to tug at his heartstrings, drawing him toward a path he could not yet see. If you're enjoying Charlton Heston's journey and want to see how his story unfolds, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Join us as we dive deeper into the life of a man caught between the glitz of Hollywood and the harsh realities of war. Stay tuned for more, as we explore the choices that shape not only his destiny but the very fabric of a nation's history. The morning sun broke through the heavy clouds, casting a harsh light over the military base, illuminating the faces of young men who had once been hopeful actors, now transformed by the rigors of training. Charlton Heston stood among them, sweat beading on his brow, his uniform slightly disheveled, reflecting the chaos of his inner thoughts. The air was thick with tension, a palpable energy that crackled around the group as they prepared for a critical training exercise. For weeks, they had endured grueling drills, but today felt different, charged with an impending sense of purpose. As they lined up, Captain Jack Thompson's voice boomed across the field, commanding attention. "This exercise is not just about tactics, it's about survival. You'll face situations that will test your resolve, your courage, and your will to fight." Charlton's heart raced at the thought. He admired Thompson, who had become a mentor and a symbol of bravery, but the pressure to live up to that ideal felt suffocating. Charlton's mind drifted to the letter he had received from Margaret the night before. The words echoed in his head like a haunting melody. "I feel so alone, Charlton. The days stretch long without you, and I worry about what you're facing. I need you home." Each line struck him like a blow, igniting a conflict within. He had signed up to serve his country, to give life to the roles he played, but at what cost? The weight of her fears pressed heavily on his chest. "Focus!" Thompson barked, snapping Charlton back to the moment. The exercise began, and they were thrust into a simulation designed to mimic the chaos of battle. The sounds of gunfire and shouting filled the air, and Charlton felt his adrenaline surge. He moved instinctively, dodging imaginary bullets, but his thoughts remained tethered to Maggie. As they navigated through the simulation, the intensity escalated. They crawled through mud, climbed over obstacles, and shouted commands, losing themselves in the urgency of the moment. But then, in the midst of the chaos, tragedy struck. A fellow soldier, Mike, stumbled during a maneuver, his foot catching on a hidden root. He fell hard, hitting his head against the ground. The crack echoed through the air, silencing the chaos around them. Charlton rushed to Mike's side, panic gripping him as he saw blood pooling beneath his head. "Get the medic!" Charlton yelled, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. As he cradled Mike's head, he could see the light fading from his eyes. "Stay with me, Mike. Help is coming." But deep down, Charlton felt the fragility of life, the stark reality of war crashing down on him like a wave. This wasn't a scene from a movie, this was real, and it was terrifying. Mike's breathing became shallow, and Charlton's heart raced with a mix of fear and helplessness. In that moment, he was no longer just an actor playing a role, he was a soldier facing the consequences of his choices. As medics rushed in, Charlton felt the world around him blur. He could hear Thompson's voice, but it was muffled, as if coming from underwater. The gravity of the situation sank in. This was what war meant: pain, loss, and uncertainty. The heroic images he had clung to were now tainted with the harsh truths of sacrifice. Later that evening, as they gathered to debrief, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken fears. Thompson, usually so composed, looked visibly shaken. "What happened today is a reminder of what we're preparing for. We are not just fighting for glory, we are fighting for each other. Remember that." Charlton nodded, but his mind wandered back to Maggie's letter. He felt the weight of her loneliness and fear, and now, he carried the weight of Mike's fate as well. He was torn. Should he stay and fight, risking everything, or should he return home, where he was desperately needed? The internal struggle raged within him, making it harder to breathe. That night, as he lay in his bunk, the sounds of the base reverberated around him. The distant laughter of soldiers, the clinking of metal, and the soft rustle of sheets filled the room. Each sound felt like a reminder of the life he had left behind. He pulled out Maggie's letter, reading it again. Her words creeping into his heart like a vine, wrapping around his thoughts. Suddenly, the door swung open, and Thompson stepped inside, his face serious. "Heston, can we talk?" Charlton sat up, sensing the gravity of the conversation. "What's wrong?" Thompson hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I'm not sure how to say this, but I want you to know that I admire your courage. You've shown remarkable resilience during training. But I've received word that we're deploying soon, and I want to make sure you're ready for what's to come." Charlton's heart sank. Deployment. The word felt like a freight train barreling toward him, and he was helpless to stop it. "I understand, sir. But I'm not sure if I'm ready. I've seen how quickly things can change out there." Thompson nodded, a somber understanding in his eyes. "None of us are truly ready, Heston. But you have something that sets you apart, a sense of purpose. Don't let fear dictate your path. You're destined for greatness, both on and off the battlefield." Charlton felt a surge of determination at Thompson's words but also an overwhelming sense of doubt. Could he truly be a hero? Could he live up to the expectations of a soldier, a husband, and an actor all at once? As Thompson left, Charlton lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, unable to shake the feeling of dread. A part of him wanted to run home to Maggie, to shield her from the harsh realities he was now facing. But another part craved the chance to prove himself, to fight for a cause greater than himself. The next morning brought with it a chilling announcement: deployment orders had arrived. Charlton's heart raced as he gathered with his fellow soldiers, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He looked around, seeing the mixture of fear and resolve etched on their faces. This was it, the moment they had all been training for, yet it felt like a precipice, and he was teetering on the edge. As the sergeant read the names for deployment, Charlton's stomach twisted with anxiety. He held his breath, praying that his name would not be called. But when it was, a wave of cold fear washed over him. He glanced at Mike's empty spot, the realization hitting him hard. This was no longer just about him, it was about all of them. "Private Heston." The sergeant's voice rang out, pulling him from his thoughts. "You're to report to the transport unit immediately." Charlton nodded, his throat dry. He felt the weight of his decision crushing him as he walked away from the group. The reality of what lay ahead loomed large, and he couldn't shake the image of Maggie's face, filled with concern and love. As he boarded the transport vehicle, he caught sight of Thompson standing by the gate, a look of determination on his face. It struck Charlton that this journey would not just test his physical strength but challenge the very core of who he was. Would he emerge as the hero he had always aspired to be, or would the weight of his choices crush him? The engine roared to life, and as they pulled away from the base, Charlton's heart raced with uncertainty. He looked out at the passing scenery, knowing that he was leaving behind everything he held dear. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, a poignant reminder that he was stepping into the unknown. In that moment, he felt a rush of clarity. He had to embrace this journey, not just for himself but for Maggie, for Mike, and for every soldier who had ever fought for their country. As the vehicle rumbled down the road, he made a silent promise to himself: he would face whatever lay ahead with courage, and when he returned, he would be more than an actor, he would be a symbol of resilience and hope. And so, with the weight of the world on his shoulders, Charlton Heston rode into the unknown, ready to forge his destiny. The sun dipped beneath the horizon as Charlton Heston stood at the edge of a battlefield in Europe, the once vibrant colors of his life now muted by the harsh gray of war. The echoes of gunfire and the cries of soldiers filled the air, a stark reminder of the reality he had chosen to confront. With each step he took, he felt the heavy burden of responsibility settle on his shoulders, a weight that had been absent in Hollywood's dazzling lights but felt all too real now. As he crouched behind a makeshift barricade, the chaos of battle engulfed him. Memories flooded back, the laughter shared with Maggie during their blissful evenings, the conversations filled with dreams of stardom, and the quiet moments of doubt he had tried to bury. Each recollection served as a reminder of what he had left behind and the sacrifices he had made. But now, standing amidst the grit of combat, he began to realize that true heroism was not merely the stuff of movies. It was rooted in the human experience, filled with pain, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to something greater than oneself. The battle raged on, and in the midst of it, Charlton's instincts kicked in. He moved swiftly, guiding his fellow soldiers through the chaos with newfound clarity. The training he once viewed as an obstacle had transformed into a lifeline, allowing him to lead with confidence and courage. In those moments, he understood that this was not about the accolades or the applause. It was about survival, camaraderie, and the bond that formed between those who fought for each other. After what felt like an eternity, the fighting subsided, and the silence that followed was deafening. Charlton crouched in the dirt, heart pounding as he processed the reality of what had just transpired. He had witnessed the fragility of life and the cost of freedom, and in that instant, he knew he would return home forever changed. His experiences would shape not only his own narrative but also the stories he would tell through the films he created. Back in Hollywood, the city buzzed with the excitement of post-war optimism. Yet, for Charlton, the glitz had faded. He returned to find Maggie waiting for him, her strong demeanor masking the concern she had carried throughout his absence. Their reunion was filled with unspoken words, a whirlwind of emotions flooding the air between them. The war had changed them both, but it had also forged a deeper understanding of one another. "Maggie," he said, his voice thick with unshed emotion. "I thought I knew what it meant to be brave. But now, I see that courage isn't just about fighting. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard." Maggie nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've grown, Charlton. And so have I. We can do so much more together now." With their love rekindled and their spirits intertwined, Charlton and Maggie set out to make a difference. They began advocating for veterans, sharing stories that highlighted the struggles faced not only by soldiers but also by their families. Their mission was to bridge the gap between Hollywood and the realities of war, ensuring that the sacrifices made were not forgotten. Charlton threw himself into writing and producing films that reflected the true experiences of veterans. Gone were the days of glorified battles. Instead, he sought to portray the raw, unfiltered truth of combat and its aftermath. He collaborated with veterans, listening to their stories, and pouring their truths into the scripts that would soon grace the silver screen. As the years passed, Charlton became an icon, not just for his acting but for his unwavering commitment to honoring those who served. he stood at the forefront of a movement that sought to change the narrative, reminding the world that heroes come in many forms and that the stories worth telling are those that resonate with the heart. Maggie, too, found her voice. She organized community events, bringing people together to support veterans' causes and foster healing. The couple became a powerful team, their love and dedication inspiring others to recognize the importance of empathy and understanding. Charlton often reflected on his journey. He had entered the military as a young man seeking validation but returned home as a leader, a storyteller, and a husband. He had learned that true courage lies in vulnerability, in embracing the complexities of life, and in using one's platform to uplift others. As the sun set over the Hollywood Hills, Charlton stood on the balcony of his home, gazing at the stars that twinkled like the dreams he had once chased. He turned to Maggie, who stood beside him, her hand intertwined with his. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he mused. "Yes, we have," she replied, her voice filled with warmth. "But it's just the beginning." Charlton smiled, knowing that their story was far from over. Together, they had turned their struggles into strength, transforming the pain of war into a legacy of hope. And as they looked to the future, they were ready to share their journey with the world, reminding everyone that the most powerful stories are those that connect us all. As the credits rolled on their latest film, a documentary showcasing the lives of veterans and their families, Charlton turned to the audience, his heart full. Every hero has a story, and every story deserves to be told. Let us remember those who fought for our freedom and honor their sacrifices by understanding the true cost of war. In closing, Charlton and Maggie extended an invitation to the viewers. Join us in celebrating the stories of real-life heroes. Share your thoughts in the comments below, like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe for more inspiring content. Together, let's keep the conversation alive and honor the sacrifices that shape our world. As the screen faded to black, the audience was left with a sense of connection, a reminder that every narrative, no matter how small, has the power to inspire change and foster understanding. Charlton Heston had not only become a symbol of courage but also a beacon of hope, shining brightly in a world that desperately needed it.